Hello, good morning. Welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash. Today is Sunday, December 17th, 2023, and I am here to go over the top plays for DFS and Prizepicks in Week 15 of the NFL. Hard to believe, but the season's almost over. We'll only have 3 weeks left after this week. And so everybody's in the playoff push, and we'll kind of build our lineups and our plays around that a little bit. But first of all, if you're new to DFS Coach Talk, if you would give us a like and then hit subscribe. After you've done those two things, if you would hit the alarm bell, that will let you know when our newest podcast has gone live. And excuse me, but if you haven't joined DFS Coach Talk yet, we would love to have you join us. We have memberships that start as low as only $4.99 for a week membership. We also have our NBA special for $59.99 rest of the NBA season, the NFL season, what's left of it, and then the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl, the beginning of Major League Baseball the first couple of months, and then basically the whole NBA regular season all the way up until June. So we would really love to have you join us. We're a very family-friendly, very positive and encouraging community at DFS Coach Talk. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. If you would like to join us, first of all, you can DM me at DFS Coach Talk on Twitter or send me an email, jpdavis1982@gmail.com. And let's go ahead and get started with our Week 15 overview, going game by game, starting with the first game today at 1 p.m. Eastern. The Atlanta Falcons are in Carolina taking on the Panthers. Atlanta is a 2.5-point favorite on the road, minus 145 on the money line. There's a 99% chance of rain, 50 degrees with the wind blowing north-northeast at 16 miles an hour. Very low over-under. Lowest, I believe the lowest on the slate at only 32.5. So not a lot there from a DFS standpoint. Next game is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern as well. The Chicago Bears taking on the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. The Browns are a 2.5-point favorite at home, minus 145 on the money line, 37 over under, 69% chance of rain, 46 degrees with the wind blowing southeast at 15 miles an hour. And we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. Packers are 3.5-point favorite, minus 190 on the money line, 41.5 over under, 38% chance of rain only. 42 degrees, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west, so not too bad for Green Bay in December for sure. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the New York Jets taking on the Miami Dolphins in Miami. Dolphins are an 8-point favorite, minus 390 on the money line, 37 over under, 77 degrees, 23-mile-an-hour winds. That's interesting, blowing to the west. I did watch a little bit of the NFL Network game day morning. And looks like Tyreek Hill will play, but he was noticeably limping a little bit as he was walking on the sidelines with the trainers and stuff. So I think he will play, but he's going to probably be a little limited. They might use him a little bit as a decoy today. So from a DFS standpoint, I would be careful with him. May not see him take a lot of deep shots. Might be more of a screen plays. And, I don't know what they have planned for him, but I don't think he's going to be as heavily involved as he usually is. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Patriots in New England. Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite, minus 430 on the money line. Has an over-under of 39.5. 11% chance of rain, 50 degrees, 3-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the east-southeast. We have the New York Giants taking on the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. The Saints are a 5.5-point favorite at home, minus 245 on the money line. 39.5 over under. Refreshing here to see if we have some inactives come in. Should be popping in any minute. The Houston Texans are taking on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. Titans are a 3-point favorite at home, minus 170 on the money line. A 38 over under, 53 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the northwest. We move to the 4:05 p.m. Eastern slate. The 49ers are in Arizona taking on the Cardinals. 49ers are a 12-point favorite on the road, minus 795 on the money line. 48.5 over under. All these afternoon games have real high over unders, so those are the games we're going to be targeting quite a bit. They're indoors, so there's no weather concerns. Then we have the Washington Commanders taking on the Los Angeles Rams in LA. Rams are a 6.5-point favorite, minus 300 on the money line, 49 over under. Once again, they're indoors, so there's no weather. Then we have the big game today. Dallas Cowboys taking on the Bills in Buffalo, -2. Buffalo is a favorite at home. Then they are minus 130 on the money line, 49 over under, 62% chance of rain, 50 degrees, 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the south. Then tonight we have the Baltimore Ravens in Jacksonville taking on the Jaguars. The Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite, minus 190 on the money line, 40.5 over under. 58 degrees, wind blowing similar to Miami, 20 miles an hour, west-northwest. Tomorrow night, we have the Philadelphia Eagles in Seattle taking on the Seahawks. Eagles are a 3-point favorite on the road, minus 150 on the money line, 45 over under, 79% chance of rain, 46 degrees, 2-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the east. All right, so that's going to do it for the game overview. Let's go ahead and look at the chat. Anybody have – oh, yeah, we got a lot of comments here, so that's good. What's going on, Doug? How's it going, Chad? DePrince, glad you made it today. Travis Duarte, been a while since I've seen you. How's it going? King of Smack, good to see you, man. Let's see. Tyreek Hill is out. Okay. So, yeah, that limp that I saw, they were mentioning that in the pregame. That was obviously worse than they expected. So Tyreek Hill's out, so that's a big loss for Miami. The Jets could pull an upset here. I mean, I know Miami's still a pretty decent favorite, but definitely hurts the Dolphins a lot. I would probably just avoid this game for the most part from a DFS standpoint. They're probably double team Waddle now. So that's going to be an interesting game. Especially because the Jets are trying to make a push. If they can get a win today, that they might be able to get Aaron Rodgers back next week, which is probably rushing it, but that's what they're talking about. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that definitely hurts Miami for sure. Yes, I do like Washington, LA, but not as much on the Washington side, Travis. Do we have anybody here today that's not a member? I would like to give away a week membership. I haven't done that in a while. So if you're not a member, please type in the chat, I'm not a member. Or you can just type 2. That'd be easier. Just type 2 if you're not a member. And we'll be glad to get you in our Discord. All right, so my top plays at quarterback, I have Brock Purdy. He's 6,800 on DraftKings, 8,400 on Fanduel. I don't like that price as much. I feel like he's a little overpriced. I mean, he's been playing really well, but that's a really high price compared to DraftKings and Yahoo. 8,400 on Fanduel, $30 on Yahoo. He's averaged 24.6 DraftKings points over his last 5 games. His first game when he went against Arizona this year, he completed all but one pass. He went 20 of 21, 283 and a touchdown for 21.3 DraftKings points. But he really didn't, have that much going in the passing game from a touchdown standpoint. So if he puts up a couple touchdowns or, 3, he's really going to have a nice game. So I do like Brock Purdy as my top quarterback play. Cardinals have allowed the 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. I also like Matthew Stafford. He's not as much of a value play as Joe Flacco, who's going to be my value play, but I do like Matthew Stafford as well. Flacco is only 5,500 on DraftKings, 7,100 on FanDuel, $27 on Yahoo, going up against the Bears, who have allowed the 4th most passing yards per game. On the road this year, this is really interesting. So on the road, they've allowed the 4th most passing yards per game, but at home, they've allowed the 8th fewest. So that wind, that Windy City, that whole thing, that's a real deal, and it's really affected the passing game, obviously. So on the road, the Bears have really struggled against the pass, so I do like Joe Flacco. His last 2 starts against the Rams and the Jaguars, he was very solid. Last week against Jacksonville, he threw 3 touchdowns. He only had 1 interception for 25.34 DraftKings points. It's a really good value. And the Browns, they've actually been throwing a lot with Flacco at quarterback. They've thrown 45 and 44 passes in the first 2 games with Joe Flacco. So the Bears are very good against the run. I would expect them to have kind of a pass funnel with their defense. As I mentioned, they're the 4th worst on the road against the pass. So I do like Joe Flacco at home against the Bears as a value play. Running back, I'm assuming he's probably going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. Christian McCaffrey, he's 9,300 on DraftKings, 10.5 on Fanduel, $42 on Yahoo. Obviously, he's very expensive, but he is averaging 25.3 DraftKings points per game this year. He's on the road against Arizona, who has allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to running backs. Last time he faced them, which I think was week 8, I believe. I don't have that in front of me, but I think that's right. He has best game of the season, and he had 20 carries for 106 yards rushing, 3 rushing touchdowns, 7 receptions for 71 yards, and a receiving touchdown for 51.7 DraftKings points. So I like the ceiling a lot for McCaffrey today. His price is a little, costly, obviously, but I think there's enough value that you can kind of build a lineup that you like without having to sacrifice McCaffrey. If you don't want to go to McCaffrey, definitely look at Derrick Henry. He hasn't faced Houston this year, but he has absolutely torched them. The last 5 games he's played against them, he scored 10 touchdowns. He's averaging 2 touchdowns per game against Houston. Some of their top run defenders are out today. He's averaged 203.6 rushing yards in his last 5 games against Houston, which is absolutely unreal. For 37.2 DraftKings points. So there's a very, very good chance that Henry has a monster day. And I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned compared to McCaffrey. So kind of like him in tournaments. Excuse me. I kind of like him in cash. Definitely like him in tournaments. Next play would be Bijan Robinson. He's 6,800 on DraftKings, 8,600 on FanDuel, $28 on Yahoo. Once again, similar to Brock Purdy, I don't like his price on FanDuel as much, but on DraftKings and Yahoo, I think he's a good value. Going up against Carolina, who has allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. Robinson went against Carolina in the opening week of the season at home. He had 10 carries for 56 yards. He had 6 receptions for 27 yards and a receiving touchdown for 20.3 DraftKings points. So Atlanta should be, you never know, it's the NFL, anybody can win, but Atlanta should be comfortably ahead in this game, and Robinson should be relied on heavily with the Falcons having a lead. So that's kind of the way I see the game script going here. So I do like Bijan Robinson. I also like Rachaad White against the Packers. The Packers have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to running backs this year, and they did allow over 200 yards rushing to the Giants Monday night. So Rachaad White is in a good spot against Green Bay. Look at the chat, see if we have any questions. Travis Duarte. Okay, so you're new. So send me a DM on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk, or you can email me, jpdavis1982@gmail.com. Let me know that you want to get in, and I'll try to get you in. I'm almost positive I'll be able to. I do have to run to go to church here in a minute, but should be able to get you in the Discord today, so you have the full NFL slate today. Wide receiver, we have Cooper Kupp. He's 7,800 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel, $25 on Yahoo. Playing against the Commanders, who allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. Last week, he had his best game of the year in Baltimore since not his best game of the year, but his best game since week 6. He had 8 catches on 10 targets for 115 receiving yards and a touchdown for 28.5 DraftKings points. And Deebo Samuel is supposed to be pretty high owned. He's $100 below Kupp on DraftKings. So I think that Kupp's going to come in at lower ownership. And I like him the most on Yahoo. He's only $25 on Yahoo. So I like him a lot over there. and like him on all three sites, though. The other wide receivers I like today, one of them was Tyreek Hill, but I'll take him out. Then we have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So I like both of Purdy's top receiving targets at wide receiver, Samuel and Ayuk. For value, I like DeMarcus Robinson. He's 3,600 on DraftKings, 5,600 on Fanduel, $15 on Yahoo. He saw a season-high 10 targets last week in Baltimore. Tutu Atwell left the game, so he could be out. He left the game last week in the middle of the game, so he could be out today, which would make Robinson wide receiver 3 for the Rams. So I do like him as a value play. He scored double-digit fantasy points with 13.6 last week and 15.5 the week before against Cleveland. Tight end, I'm really paying down today at tight end. All the top tight ends pretty much across the board have really tough matchups. So I'm looking at Tucker Kraft. He's 3,000 on DraftKings, 4,700 on FanDuel, $10 on Yahoo. He's a good value on all three sites. At home against the Bucs, who have allowed the 9th most fantasy points to tight ends. Ever since Luke Musgrave went on IR, obviously Kraft has stepped in as a starting tight end. Last Monday, he had a career-high 64 receiving yards. I say career-high, he's still a rookie, so it's a young season for him. But 64 receiving yards, 4 receptions for 10.4 DraftKings points. And at his price, if we can get double-digit fantasy points, then that's really good value at the position. All right, for defense, I do like the Dolphins against the Jets. The Titans against Houston without C.J. Stroud. Case Keenum is expected to start for Houston, so I do like the Titans. The Giants, I like their defense a little bit against the Saints. Their defense has been playing much better lately, so I do like the Giants' defense against the Saints. Look at the inactives here. They should be all out now. Crap, Jair's out again for the Packers. That dude, he needs to come back. Let's see. So, looking to see besides Tyreek if we have anything that I would consider a major injury. Looks like we're pretty good. All right, so my top picks of the week, I have the Dolphins. I still like the Dolphins to beat the Jets. I have the Giants in an upset, covering, not necessarily winning outright, but covering 5.5 at New Orleans. For Prizepicks, I like Derrick Henry more than 67.5 rushing yards. I talked about what he's done against Houston. They do have this thing with demons and goblins now on Prizepicks. So basically you can pick a demon if you think that they're going to go way over their number and play at an adjusted number, which is higher than usual, or a goblin if you think they might just make it or miss it, and you can play at a lower number than normal. So real quick, Derrick Henry more than 67.5 rushing yards, Joe Flacco more than 199.5 passing yards, and Christian McCaffrey more than 21.5 fantasy score. Yeah, you could even pivot to the Jets defense with Tyreek Hill out. That's a good point. Well, guys, I'm going to have to run. I just got a notification. Looks like my battery's about to die on my laptop. I didn't have time to plug it in. So I hope everybody has an awesome Sunday. Let's absolutely crush it. And I'll be back again next week for week 16. Travis, reach out to me, like I said, on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. Email me, jpdavis1982@gmail.com, and I will be glad to get you in. So we'll be back again next week, guys, as we look to crush it in NFL, DFS, and Prizepicks. Thank you.